Hey everybody, welcome to the Bizarre and the Unknown, where I'm doing the All Hallows Eve special. I'll be diving into the history of All Hallows Eve, several aspects of it. Give me a like, subscribe, and share, and please comment in there and let's build this amazing universe. Richie was playing outside. School was out, and he still had another 2 hours before he can go trick or treating. Samantha was playing with him. They were not announced as boyfriend and girlfriend, but that was not important to them. They were thick as thieves. Richie looked in her baby blue eyes. Samantha, what are you going to be for Halloween? Samantha smiled that angelic smile. Do you not remember? Honestly, what am I going to do with you? If you're going to be my boyfriend, you could at least remember things about me. Richie frowned and stared at the ground. I'm sorry, Samantha. I guess you'll want to find a boyfriend that remembers things. Samantha danced over close to him. Then she grabbed his hand. No, silly. I'm just messing with you. I'm going to be a ballerina. Samantha's soft, warm hand brightened Richie's demeanor. I'm going to be a werewolf. Samantha laughed. A ballerina and a werewolf. Now, will that not be a sight? The smile left her face, and she was deep into thought. Yep, I have decided. Richie looked at her puzzled. Decided what? Samantha laughed. I have decided that I like that you'll be a werewolf. I can get a spare dog collar and leash. You can wear that, and you could be a ballerina's pet werewolf. Richie got mad. I am no pet werewolf. I am a mean, bloodthirsty beast. I have come for your flesh. Richie held his hands up and spread his fingers wide so that they would look like werewolf claws. He began to growl and howl. Then he started chasing Samantha. Samantha laughed and ran, screaming, Help me! Someone! A big bad chihuahua was after me! Richie still chasing her. I'll show you, Chihuahua. He let out another howl. But this one sounded different. It sounded real. They both stopped dead in their tracks. Samantha turned to him. Wow, Richie, that sounded really good. Before he could reply, another howl rang out. It came from the trees on the other side of the subdivision that they lived in. They both stared at the tree line. Richie could hear the fear in Samantha's voice when she spoke. What was that? Richie, what was that? Fear had gripped Richie tight. He could not speak. He could only shake his head no. Then, all of a sudden, a large werewolf emerged from the tree line. It moved so fast. In seconds, it was at the tall brick and iron fence. The fence was 10 feet tall. It had sharp points on the top of the iron bars. The werewolf leaped over it like it was nothing. Richie and Samantha's eyes were so large from fright. The werewolf, it was coming for them. They were so scared they could not move. In seconds, it was at them. It had large, sharp, white teeth, and drool dripped from them. I hope you all enjoyed that. That was a short story I just wrote just for All Hallows Eve. So, with that being said, let's dive into the history of All Hallows Eve. Halloween. Carving pumpkins, trick or treating, and wearing scary costumes are some of the time honored traditions of Halloween. Yet, the Halloween holiday has its roots in an ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, a religious celebration to welcome the harvest at the end of the summer, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope George III designated November 1st as time to honor saints. Soon after, All Saints' Day came to incorporate some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before All Saints' Day, known as All Hallows' Eve, and later Halloween. The tradition of carving jack-o'-lanterns originated in Ireland using turnips instead of pumpkins. It is allegedly based on a legend about a man named Stingy Jack who repeatedly trapped the devil and only let him go on the condition that Jack would never go to hell. But when Jack died, he learned that heaven did not want his soul either, so he was forced to wander the earth as a ghost for eternity. The devil gave Jack a burning lump of coal and a carved out turnip to light his way. Locals eventually began carving scary faces into their own turnips to frighten away evil spirits. This is where the term jack-o'-lanterns came from. The festival of Samhain marked the transition to the new year at the end of the harvest and the beginning of winter. Celtic people believed that during the festival, spirits walked the earth. Later on, Christian missionaries introduced All Souls' Day on November 2nd, which perpetuated the idea of living coming into contact with the dead around the same time of year. In order to avoid being terrorized by all the evil spirits walking the earth during Samhain, the Celts donned disguises in order to confuse the spirits and to be left alone. There is much debate around the origins of trick or treating, but generally, there are three theories. The first theory suggests that during Samhain, Celtic people would leave food out to appease the spirits traveling the earth at night. Over time, people began to dress as these unearthly beings in exchange for similar offerings of food and drink. The second theory speculates that the candy boom stems from the Scottish practice of guising, which is a secular version of souling. During the Middle Ages, generally, children and poor adults would collect food and money from local homes in return for prayers for the dead on All Souls' Day. Geysers dropped the prayers in favor of non-religious practices with the inclusion of songs, jokes, or other, i.e., tricks. A third theory argues that modern American trick-or-treating stems from Belsnickeling, a German-American Christmas tradition where children would dress in costume and then call on the neighbors to see if the adults could guess the identities of the disguised. In one version of the practice, the children were rewarded with food or other treats if no one could identify them. The idea of being spooked by black cats date back to the Middle Ages when these dark felines were considered a symbol of the devil. It didn't help that centuries later, accused witches were often found having cats, particularly black ones. People began to believe that the cats were a witch's familiar, supernatural entities that would assist in their practices of dark magic. And black cats and spookiness have been linked ever since. The traditional Halloween colors of black and orange also trace back to Celtic festival of Samhain. For the Celts, black represented the death of summer, while the orange symbolized the autumn harvest season. The game Bobbing for Apples has been a staple in Halloween parties for many years, but its origins are more rooted in love and romance. The game traces back to a courting ritual that was part of a Roman festival honoring Pomona, the goddess of agriculture and abundance. While multiple versions existed, The geist was that young men and women would be able to predict their future relationships based on the game. When the Romans conquered the British Isles in 43 AD, the Pomona festival blended with the similarly timed Samhain, a precursor to Halloween. Playing pranks often varies by region, but the pre Halloween tradition known as Devil's Night is credited to a different origin depending on the source. Some say that pranks started as a part of May Day celebrations, but Samhain and eventually All Souls Day also included good natured mischief. When Irish and Scottish immigrants came to America, they brought with them the traditions of celebrating Mischief Night as part of Halloween. For much of early history of Halloween, towering bonfires were used to light the way for souls seeking the afterlife. These days, lighting candles have generally replaced the large traditional blazes. For centuries, people have been coating fruit and syrup as a means of preservation, but during the Roman festival of Pomona, the goddess was often represented by and associated with apples. Her name derives from the Latin word for apple, pomum, and the fruit is at the heart of the harvest celebrations. It is believed the candy apples were invented accidentally in 1908 by William W. Kolb, a candy maker in Newark, New Jersey. As the story goes, Kolb was experimenting with red cinnamon candy to sell at Christmas time, and he dipped apples on sticks into the red glaze and then put them in the shop window to showcase his new candy. But instead of selling the candies, he ended up selling the apples to customers who thought that they looked good enough to eat. They became fashionable treats for Halloween starting in the early 1900s, and they remained a popular up until the 1970s. Bats were likely presented at the earliest proto Halloween celebrations, not just symbolically but literally. As part of the Samhain, Celts lit large bonfires which attracted insects, which in turn attracted bats. Soon, spotting bats became connected with the festival. Medieval folklore expanded upon the eeriness of bats with a number of superstitions built around the belief that bats were harbingers of death. The act of going door to door for handouts has long been a part of Halloween festivities, but until the mid 20th century, the treats children received were not necessarily candy. Things like fruit, nuts, coins, and toys were just as likely to be given out. Trick or treating rose in popularity in the 1950s, and it inspired candy companies to market small individual wrapped candies. People began to favor the candies out of convenience, but candy did not dominate at the conclusion of all other treats until the 1970s, when parents started fearing anything unwrapped. I can't finish off a Halloween special without introducing the one and the only candy corn. A candy maker at the Wonderlay Candy Company in Philadelphia, sometimes credited with inventing the tricolored candy in the 1880s. However, the candy corn did not become a widespread sensation until the Golet's Company brought the candy to the masses in 1898. Candy corn was originally called chicken feed, and it was sold in boxes with the slogan, "Something worth crowing for." Initially, it was just an autumn candy because of the corn's association with the harvest time. Candy corn later became Halloween specific when trick or treating grew into popularity in the United States during the 1950s. Hope you guys enjoyed the Halloween special. I love doing the history of holidays, how they started, where they originated from, how they were transformed, and what they were transformed from. All Hallows Eve is one of my favorite holidays. Not with the dressing up, just because it's associated with autumn. Um, and as we learned here, we see how All Hallows Eve was stapled into what we know nowadays as Halloween, which was done by the candy companies, basically. They changed stuff up and all that, and I mean, church, the Catholic Church and everything else involved. So if you guys liked it, man, give me a like, subscribe, and a share. Comment in here. That helps build the algorithm, and I'll see you guys on the next one. And thank you so much for listening. Peace, love, and blessings, everyone.